Are we recording? We are.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Do any of us want to do? Are we going to do like an intro?
I mean, this is the intro. We're just keeping it casual.
We're live, baby.
We're live with the squad.
Just realized I have a nice little table that just sits.
You
Oh
do.
my God.
It's so cute. So for anyone watching on the YouTube, Daraja's pretty fucking pregnant. And she gets to use her belly as a shelf right now for her birthday.
Hopefully only for a couple more weeks.
Yeah, you're due like in 2 or 3 weeks.
4 weeks.
4 weeks.
So hopefully sooner.
Do you have a feeling she's gonna come sooner?
I do. I keep telling Keith, I'm like, I just like feel like we're getting closer, which like makes sense because we are. But I just like, I'm trying to like listen to my body and like its signals. I'm also kind of just like maybe wishful thinking because I'm a little uncomfortable now.
Would say you're just like wishing it.
Hopefully you won't have to like take too many breather breaks, but
we'll see.
Yes, we got it.
Yeah, I've been like nesting and like doing a bunch of like earlier today I just could not sit down. I was like, I need to like wipe this down and like sanitize her pacifiers, and like I just ran her laundry to wash all her clothes. Yeah. What?
I said she's not even alive yet and she has laundry to do.
Yeah, well I don't know. I feel like washing like baby clothes before you put them on them is like standard practice. But I don't know.
Probably.
I'm just maybe that's just me. But yeah. Anyways, on the opposite end of the spectrum, you guys are about ready to get back on stage.
Yeah.
Week and a half.
I feel like Jess did a really good job of fading her tan from last week. But...
Yeah, you like don't even look like you had one on almost. Like not in a rude way. You look really pale.
I mean, I am pale, so that's not. I
was like, that was kind of offensive.
I know. I basically exfoliated and moisturized like every day. There's like stuff on my feet still. Yeah, but like,
show us your feet.
Move your microphone closer.
You have to pay me for that.
That costs extra.
Jess, move your microphone closer if you can.
Hello. How's that?
I think that's fine.
Sounds good.
We'll find out. We'll figure it out. So this is the first episode where we have all 3 coaches on, and I'm super excited. So thank you guys for being here. Obviously, you guys have both joined in the last couple months, and I was excited about you wanting to be like more like, obviously you guys wanting to be a part of the podcast, because so far the podcast has just been me and guests.
Yeah, you've been holding it down on your own.
Yeah. What'd you say?
I said you've been holding it down on your own.
Yeah, and it's been cool because it's definitely allowed me to like feel out more of what I want, what direction I want the podcast to go. I think being on the code for so long, I was like, and you guys know this too from being on it, it was very bodybuilding and like competitor focused. And I really wanted this Refined Strength podcast to be something that like, yes, obviously my audience is mostly competitors or people who want to compete or just people who are into the lifestyle and not competing. So I wanted to be something that would benefit people like that in various ways, just like benefit someone as a person, but also be more than bodybuilding, because we are all more than bodybuilders and more than coaches. And, bodybuilding is like, there's only so much you can really.
It's very niche. It's very niche, and like it can be hard to relate to for a lot of people. So
yeah. So I've been enjoying like having various guests on like in and outside of the bodybuilding world and talking about like both sides of things. But I'm excited too now to have all 3 of us coaches on to talk about some of those more bodybuilding focused things that our clients or things that potential clients and just listeners and friends want to hear about, that from our perspective as coaches, because those perspectives can continue to evolve and help people. So today we're talking about the holidays because it is
Yeah.
October 30th, or no, it's October 29th when this is being recorded, but it'll be released like November 3rd or something like that, like next week. So we're just getting into the holiday season. Pumpkin
Yeah,
spice.
man. Yeah, I'm excited. And that's also like when I'll be hoping she's ready to pop out. So but
Yeah.
yeah, I know we were like also kind of like toying around like what to talk about, but I was like I think getting ahead of it too, you know, not waiting until like Thanksgiving to put out an episode kind of like helps people maybe mentally prepare who maybe aren't working with a coach,
Mhm.
who like need kind of like maybe some tips or some insight or like maybe permission to like take a deep breath and not stress out about the holidays.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
because the holidays are something that's like are stressful for a lot of people, but they're not
Mhm.
like it doesn't have to be that
Yeah.
way.
For more reasons than just food. But
Yeah.
No, yeah,
yeah.
I was gonna say that too, right? Just like relationships, finances, it's just like
Yeah.
traveling. There's just so much involved, and I already am addressing a lot of like holiday concerns with my clients, because there's a lot involved, and I think that there can also be a lot of like overthinking involved in it, and it doesn't need to be that way.
Yeah.
So
It's
why do you
like
think
go
people
ahead.
overthink dieting and like just their lives during the holidays? What do you guys think?
I mean, aside from like I think the mental side of things or like even like just family dynamics where like things might be a little toxic or like, you know, you have to tolerate family members that you might not really want to tolerate. You know, I think sometimes food is at the top of the list for like things to stress out about because you have specific fitness goals. And I think a lot of people like when I ask my clients or like just on the internet in DMs, like people are like, how do you come out of the holidays not gaining 10, 15 pounds, you know, or like going on vacation and feeling like you were successful, whatever that means to you, and like navigating like your fitness goals and nutrition when I think the holidays are so centered around having food and cakes and drinks, and kind of remembering it's not always about just that part of things. Like it's about a lot more than just the food and gaining weight or not gaining weight.
I think
Yeah,
people
I
stay
agree.
stuck in like
Yeah.
what they used to think of holidays as. There's like what they grew up with holidays being all about, or what like people, certain influences in their lives, like their parents or grandparents,
And
like
some cultures are really very centered around food when it comes to that stuff too. Like birth, like any reason to celebrate, it's about what
food.
you can bring as
The
like a big
meal.
potluck to like, you
Yeah.
know, show how much you love and care about your family, which I understand. I mean, my family's the same way.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think it's important to like acknowledge that, like that's okay, right? But it
Yeah.
doesn't need to be something that you turn to if you're stressed or like it's not a coping mechanism, but it is a way that people connect, and it is a
Hmm.
way that people celebrate. And like Rach, you make a good point. It's just kind of the awareness of your history and what those holidays mean to you, both from like a cultural perspective, but also just like connection with family. Maybe
Hmm.
it is like your family is really positive and you really love it, or it's really the opposite of that. I think it's kind of like an opportunity for everybody to just reflect. And I'm assuming majority of adults are listening to this, and like you get to make your own choices,
Hmm.
right? When you're little, you don't really get a whole lot of say. But now that you're an adult, you can kind of have more autonomous choices over how you want to spend your holidays and what kind of choices you want to make.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of guilt in that,
Hmm.
honestly, and that's why people stress out about it, is because they like the holidays represent like kind of going back to that place where you were a child and you didn't have really much control. Like you go to your parents' house or you go to your grandparents' house, and you're automatically transported back into that place of like you're trying to please your parents or your family,
Hmm.
and by like doing whatever they're doing whatever what they expect of you. But in reality, like, yeah, if you're listening to this, you're probably a fucking adult and you probably can do whatever you want. So if, like, what I tell people who are stressed out about, like, well, I go to this holiday dinner and like everyone expects me to eat this, or they judge me for not wanting to eat this or that, or bringing my own food even. Maybe you're in prep during the holidays and you have to do that. And what I try to tell them is like, think about if like what like if people are judging you or saying anything, whatever, like they're gonna do what they do. But it sorry, dogs are going crazy over there. They're
They're
gonna do
talking.
what they do, but like you don't have to internalize that as something wrong with you. You can just focus that on like, well, what am I doing? What do I want to do with my life? And does whatever they think really affect me and how I live my life? Is it gonna be there still on Monday morning when I'm, feeling really good because I made better choices about my food and
Mm-hmm.
instead of just doing whatever they wanted? Like,
Or
I
I
would,
mean, even like like saying the term like better choices, it could even be a matter of like making a choice that is aligning with the expectations and like desired outcome that you have. Like
yeah,
making better choices doesn't necessarily mean, your plate is all clean food or you bring your own food if you're not in prep, right? Like if your goal is to go into the holidays and enjoy and be in the moment and be present, then like your right decision could be just enjoying a good plate of the food that your family made and a drink and some dessert. Like it doesn't have to be this like it doesn't have to be just one thing that
yeah.
like makes sense or is the right decision. So,
Well, and everybody's going to have different like desired outcomes too.
mhm,
So like, you have to, like you just said, like you have to just consider like what is my goal coming out of the holiday season or coming out of this holiday or this event? How do I want to feel? What do I want out of this? And like the specificity of that goal and the intensity of that goal
it's
is
so individual.
what types of actions you may want to take during the actual event and the holiday.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can prioritize what you want to do, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I have one client who is traveling and she has like multiple dinners and things like that. And I think that can be common. Like my parents are divorced. And so there were always like multiple dinners
Mhm.
and, or like opportunities of crazy meals. And you just need to, yes, set your desired outcome expectation. And I think it should be something that's sure physique focused, but also like mentally, like how do you want to feel, how do you want to
Mhm.
like mentally, what do you want out of that? And I think
Yeah.
that that's really important. And that will direct your choices, but then prioritize things, right? Like if you have one meal that you're like, this is the meal that I really want to be present for, it matters a lot to me because my grandma's there, or like whatever it is, I don't know. But okay, great. So like prioritize that as your number one. The goal is to be present. Maybe if you have three other meals that are going to be like celebrations, maybe we choose like a different goal for those to be maybe more moderate. Maybe we don't have alcohol at those ones or like whatever it is. But it's kind of like you have the ability to prioritize your events without having
Mhm.
to like bring Tupperware. I mean, prep aside, bring Tupperware, scale, all of that. Like you don't need to do that around the holidays,
Mhm.
honestly. Like unless you're in prep, don't do that.
So like if you so that's the thing. So I think having because obviously if you're in prep and depending on where you are like where you're starting out, like how far you are from your show, like how your prep is progressing, obviously it's going to depend on the individual and like if you're working with a coach ideally, then that's something that you guys kind of discuss and plan around. Like I had my client Maria who just competed had a great prep, did what very well at her first show, super excited for her, and she came to me saying, "Hey, like I have music festivals that, I have planned. It's a big part of my life and like it's a thing that I want to prioritize. Is it possible for me to still enjoy those moments and have those moments with my friends and have a successful prep?" And I was like, "Yeah, we can do that. It's not ideal, but I'm not going to tell you it's not possible. I'm not going to tell you it's like I said, it's not ideal, but we can do it." And I think finding that balance where you're like, she still prepped her food. I still have had her on macros. I wasn't like, okay, cool, while you're at this festival for 4 days, like do whatever you want, right? Like it was, I think when you're in prep,
Just
it has to be very strategic and very planned out. And you probably, best case scenario, or like the ideal strategy is to just pack your own meal. As much as we would probably all like to sit here and say, like, a client that's prepping, like, yeah, have your free day and like we'll just deal with it tomorrow. It's like, let's control as many variables as we can. I think that's like the extreme end of it. But
especially because, like, you can enjoy a music festival with or without food, right? Like,
mhm,
yeah, it's fun to eat with everybody and maybe drink or do whatever, but like if you're in prep, you chose to be in prep, so you
mhm.
have to prioritize that. But you can also have fun. Like, I've done a lot of fun non-prep related things throughout my entire prep, and just brought my own food with me. Like, we went to the state fair and I had all of my food with me, and it was
You did a
like,
great job of like posting that too in your stories, and I think it's so important as a coach for your clients to see that. And
yeah.
because like that was, I mean, I will always talk about, the year that in 2022 when I had my bachelorette and you guys were all there and we had so much fun, and my wedding, I wasn't tracking really on those days. Um I was
But you
just,
also reach that point where you can do that
yeah,
and you know more or less what to expect, and you also know the possible outcomes of
right,
that, right?
right.
You strategize your shows around those events too,
Yeah.
so it's not like you were doing a show the week after your bachelorette party.
Mhm. Yeah,
Right.
that wouldn't have been ideal.
Yeah, like
But
you appropriately planned ahead and you kept your standards high. And I think that that's
yeah.
what you need to think about if you are in a prep scenario. You just need to be like, you chose to do this.
Yeah.
Something like your wedding, I think, is very different than honestly Thanksgiving that comes around every year.
Or
Like, I'm just
even like
gonna
my
be honest.
birthday. I'm like, I don't need to go all out for a birthday, but like that's my freaking wedding. I'm gonna have my one or two, maybe three cocktails, and like I'm gonna have a bite of my wedding cake and eat my food. I'm not gonna, yeah, it's, you want to be present, but
Well,
like
I
you
think the
said,
big part of that too is the stress and anxiety around it that you
yeah,
can either choose not to have, or choose to let just fester and grow bigger.
exactly.
Honestly, most people that have a negative reaction or outcome from having a free meal or a free day or a loosely tracked
That
day,
anxiety.
like, the people that are more stressed or feel really guilty or ashamed of any of being off track because of that kind of thing, those are usually the people that have like greater reactions, like their bodies respond more negatively
For
because of
sure.
the fact that they're stressed.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be that they overindulged. It really could just be that they have just such this negative mindset around
Yeah.
just enjoying some regular ass food.
Yeah.
You
My
know?
so I like that used to be me. I really struggled with like free meals like 4 or 5 years ago, or social gatherings of any kind, and it gave me so much anxiety, but that's honestly because I went into it overthinking and I didn't trust myself.
Mhm.
So, I didn't have the self-awareness that like I knew I was anxious, but I just let it get to me.
Yeah.
So I didn't bring that self awareness in and go, hold on, like I'm anxious right now. What do I need instead of this? Right. And I didn't communicate with other people about it. And I like really didn't trust myself because every time I would just cave in to whatever I wanted. And that's what happened. And so it was just like this never ending kind of cycle until I was like, wait a minute, why am I over stressing about this? It's causing me, like, it's obviously holding me back. It's causing me more anxiety than I really need. Like, I
Nothing
needed to
good
check
comes from
myself
like
on that.
stress or anxiety either. Like, I think a part of our subconscious thinks that like we need to stress about it or we need to be anxious about it because that's going to allow us to have this control, or
Mm.
it's gonna allow us to like hold back
But you're not
from.
even in control of your own thoughts if you're constantly spiraling into this like I'm dooming myself if I can't like make a decision on how I'm going to navigate like my plate here. And I
Yeah.
think what you said was actually on my list of like things to really give yourself permission to have is trust in your own like ability to make a decision. Like you are an adult. You know,
Yeah.
like if you have to have that trust in yourself to go, I'm going to make this decision. It's what the outcome, I'm accepting it for what it is before I even go into the situation. And I think like part of that too is letting go of the repetition and the repeated behaviors and thought patterns that are like around that time of year or that those types of social situations. And I think for my clients, like those that do struggle with that, like typically my center practice is let's have a phone call. Let me, like, I want to understand where your anxieties lie when it comes to the holidays because some people, you know, it's a no-brainer, they're not super anxious or stressed out about it, which is fantastic, but there are a handful of people who really do get stressed out about the holidays and like really are like, I don't want to gain a bunch of weight this year, I don't want to keep having this back and forth, I don't want to lose my progress. And it's like, okay, so let's just like if we were to have a tentative timeline in prep, it's like, okay, well, when is our tentative show date, right? And then let's work back from there. Let's create our plan from that point. And it's a lot easier to work backwards. So we can do the same thing by mapping out, okay, what are our biggest problem areas? And then how do we map out a plan to avoid that situation in the future? And I think I definitely have like, I think like 5 pretty common things that have been very successful in my clients' plans that are not super like, hey, let's just track all day or let's just have control over every single variable. It's just very like general things to pay attention to that have always worked. So if you don't mind, I'll go over my list. And then if you guys have any to add,
Absolutely.
we can do that. But I think my first one is like continue with your activity, go for walks, and like work out if you want to, right? Like if you enjoy that, if that's going to give you peace of mind, or if that's just part of your routine, go work out. Like you don't have to take a rest day if you like just because you feel obligated because it's the holidays. Like for me, I like to get out and get some movement in, whether it's like going for a walk in the morning with the dogs or like going to get a workout in with my husband, because those things just make me happy. They make me feel grounded because they're part of my routine anyway. And then if you're like, hey, I kind of want to take today as a rest day, don't think you have to like exert all this energy in like early in the day so you can earn your food later, because also don't like that idea.
Yeah,
And
that's a
then
big mentality shift. Like you don't earn your food.
no,
It,
man.
it's a thing. You just eat. Like
And you
Yeah.
don't
you literally eat.
overcompensate either. I don't know if that
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
was like one of the next things on the list. Like you don't do extra cardio to like
No.
the food that you already ate.
Right? Because then you're also just conditioning yourself to like understand or have this like routine of, okay, it's the holidays, I'm going to eat what I want, and then the next day I just like do 2 hours of cardio or I'm in the gym for 3 hours because I have to
Interesting.
work it off, you know?
Yeah.
You have to be very careful about allowing yourself to like, you don't even realize, I think you're probably forming those habits until you're just like, oh, this is just a normal thing. And then the next one on my list is hydrating, which I think people, especially when you're like running around errands, you're prepping food, if you're hosting or you're traveling, it's like people forget to like hydrate and drink water. But that's a big part of, I think, what can also help manage a lot of hunger, because if you're dehydrated, a lot of people that's they confuse the two. It's like you probably aren't starving, you just haven't had enough water today.
Yeah.
So keep your water intake normal, if not increasing it. I like to increase my water intake because it just reminds me to like, I don't know, have a little bit extra, especially if you're drinking.
Mm.
If you're drinking alcohol, then you definitely need to replace that water because you're going to pee it all out anyway.
Well, plus
Now,
um,
I have a
intake will also help just like kind of help your body utilize and flush through
yeah.
the so it's like it's important for your digestion of the,
Hmm.
especially if it's extra food or if it's foods that you don't normally eat. The
There's going
water
to be way more sodium in there, way more sugar
yeah.
than you usually have. So,
It's just going to keep things moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's honestly one tip that has helped so many of my clients that they don't even like, they're like, dude, I just drinking more water. I didn't even realize how much it would make me feel better the next day. Sorry,
Yeah.
Jess, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, I have a question. Now, are these tips like on, let's say, Thanksgiving Day or just like for the holidays in general?
I honestly say for the holidays in general, or like really any like vacation you're taking too, like making sure, especially if you're traveling, flying, like for us, the last 2 years we'd gone to Switzerland, and like those are long ass flights and like sitting on the plane for that long, and like, the flights affect everybody differently, and then we were also at an elevation like in the mountains, so it's like, dude, I'm definitely drinking hella water. And like Keith, even he's definitely guilty of this because he's not really like, he's into fitness, but he's not like a fitness guy. And I keep just like feeding him water. I'm like, here, take this bottle, like chug it right now. He was like, stop yelling at me. But it does help.
Reminder, he'd probably drink like 4 glasses a day or something like that.
I definitely, that's like one thing I get on him about a lot. Because he'll even admit that it makes a difference. So yeah. But
Were those all? No, you have more.
what?
What were? I forget what number we were on. Sorry.
That was the second one.
Okay.
But my third one is prioritizing protein throughout the day is still, I think, to me important, not for any other reason than hunger. I think just keeping yourself like, and also controlling your blood sugar levels. Like if you're snacking on carbs all day, you're going to crash pretty quickly. You're
Mhm.
also going to just be constantly hungry. And like you're going to fall into that like kind of like mindless snacking and eating thing, which, if you don't really care about that throughout the day, or like while you're traveling or on vacation, and that's just like, I want to go into this doing whatever the hell I want, then like fine. But for those who I think still want to come out of it with like specific goals for like not doing that or falling into those habits, because that's something they typically do, then having protein with each meal. And I think another caveat to that is I still personally like to follow my typical meal timing,
Mhm.
because it also keeps me from like getting really really hungry because I just haven't eaten all day, or just like eating a bunch all at one time.
Well, and a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
think
people, especially for Thanksgiving or for holidays, like holiday meals, they're like they go into it thinking like I'm just gonna fast all day
Yes,
because
and I used to think like that.
all of my food later at this meal.
Yep.
And so it's not only like a compensation thing because the calories and they're afraid to overeat, but it's also because like they want to overeat. And so
Mm-hmm.
be like it's almost like people prepare themselves to overeat
Yeah.
holiday meals, so they fast all day or they have very little food. But what that
Yeah.
does is it like, yeah, you're gonna be fucking hungry, but you're also going to just like gorge yourself and feel like shit most likely afterwards. And
Yeah.
there's no reason to do that. There's just like,
No.
why put yourself through that when you can just make it a slightly more indulgent meal than you normally have on top of just a normal day of eating.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And like people forget that they can create their own routine when their routine is changed. Like
Yeah.
all of these things that we're mentioning, it's like, hey, go for a walk, your workout, drink your water, eat your regular meals. It's like you can still do those things when it's Thanksgiving or if you're on a
Yeah.
holiday or if you're traveling, like
Yeah.
you can still create your routine. There's aspects of that, and it'll give you structure and help you feel just again better when you get to that one indulgent meal
Mm-hmm.
because you're on your routine. And then it's easy to get to
Get
your
that.
routine the next day because you never
Yeah.
really left it. You just changed it slightly.
And that's like that to me, it helps desensitize you a little bit too to like the idea that you had and originally around like what it means to like enjoy the holidays. It's like it kind of really just turns it into it just being another day. So that you're also again like, we don't realize how much just we do out of habit until we really break it down and realize like we're just kind of like on autopilot doing all of these things. And I think the other part of that is also remembering that like I think sometimes people look at routine and structure as like almost like a punishment or like a have to. And it's like all of these things that we're telling you, like no one has to do them. No one's holding a gun to your head telling you like it has to be this way. But I think again, if you can't have one without the other. You can't have goals and expectations for a specific outcome, but like still just keep doing the same old shit over and over and over again. Like some things, and then it becomes a want to also, because then the next day you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't feel like crap today. I don't feel this guilt because I went into this day or this weekend without a plan, and then it just got the best of me. And like you just wake up. I think my favorite is when I have clients that are like checking in the week after and they're like, oh my gosh, like I just feel successful, right?
Yeah.
Where like you used to kind of feel like you failed, and which is all perception at the end of the day, but it means something.
It does mean something, and I think like I just had a client check in today who she's been traveling a lot, and she when we just started working together, and the first few times she traveled, she really struggled in terms of like
Mhm.
staying on plan and being able to be consistent, and then like also kind of disappointed in herself for like, all right, we've been together this long and haven't made a ton of
I
progress.
always find those clients always apologize for
Yeah,
like being
yeah,
difficult. It's like, no,
Yeah.
like that's, we need these experiences.
This is
Yeah.
our job.
yeah. Reiterating the importance of just like learning from each experience. And she recently
Hmm.
just came back from another trip at the beginning of this like check-in cycle, and she said like, I'm really proud of being able to like, I was able to transition back into my routine so much easier because I chose not to stress about times that I couldn't stay on during the trip, but I also just like took better care of myself and had better routines that I would have at home while on my trip. And so I told her like, that's a huge win. And like,
Yeah.
you have another trip coming up, you're going to do the same thing. And she's much more confident going into this next trip for work because she just experienced how good it feels to just like
Yeah.
hold yourself to that higher standard, even when you're on a trip. Because like,
Yeah.
people talk about like they wait for things to calm down in order to be
Yeah.
on a plan or to really lock in, but you can lock in when things are calmed down, when things are chaotic, when things are wherever they want to be
And
when
it's
it's
such a great time to test yourself and like flex your little muscles of like self-control and
yeah.
like practice using those tools. Like I have a client who we this is our first like reverse diet together, and she's had pretty bad experiences reversing before with like just not having the best guidance with other coaches. And that was like a concern that she had but doesn't have anymore, which is like how to like trust herself, number one, but also like have just see the opportunities to like actually practice, like not go, oh, like it's just expected that it's not going to work out. It's like, no, like let's use this to like to practice
Expect more of
using our
yourself.
tools. If it doesn't work out like in the way that we expected, that's okay. It's like, where did we fall short, like so that we can do it better the next time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Thanksgiving's going to happen, Christmas is going to happen, your birthdays are
Every
going to
year.
happen
It's not
every
going anywhere.
fucking year, right? And like if
Yeah.
you always shy away from it, you're never going to be able to like expand and grow. And if you also go into those situations going, well, like, oh, well, I guess that happened, refresh, move on. Okay, well, I'm glad that you're letting it go, but what I'm not glad about is the fact that we're not progressing forward in
We're
any
not
sort of
learning.
fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah, like learning about what worked, what didn't work, how, like why, and not from a place of shame or guilt, but just looking at it and reflecting and going, okay, well, like what served me here and what didn't, and understand also it really depends on what phase you're in. Like this goes back to the beginning of the podcast where we were talking about expectations and having a, a plan moving in and how we want to feel afterwards, because some of my clients are in reverse diets, some of my clients were fucking like building through the holidays and we're like eating a lot of food, some of my clients are lifestyle clients who are learning to navigate the holidays for the first time with a coach. And I think a lot of times clients in that particular situation think that we expect them to be perfect. And it's like, no, like that, our job is to coach you. If you wanted a macro counter, you can get that online. You don't need a person to like tell you what your macros are or shouldn't be or whatever.
Right.
It's more about, okay, like, how do we navigate this? What did we learn about ourselves? What kind of boundaries do we need to create now or make different and adjust, because this shit's gonna happen all of the time. And I actually had a client who was on a break because she was traveling, like very extensive travel, and she's about to travel in a month, but she re-signed up and she's like, you know what, I wasn't going to initially, and I was just going to say, hey, we're going to start again in January. But she was like, no, fuck it, I'm more important than that and putting off my goals. And I
That's
still
huge.
have 4 weeks. Yeah, like I still have 4 weeks here that I can solidify some foundational things that I need to work on in terms of my mindset and routine and structure. And then she's traveling again, but for a 3 week time frame, and she's going to come back and have those skills to kind of fall back on and follow, and then you just build on it. Like,
That's a huge testament to her as a client, and like probably taking a huge step in like becoming the person that she wants to be and the version of herself she wants to be, and like taking actual accountability and control and saying, you know what, no, I do have control over these things that I used to think I didn't, and I'm going to work on them. And then that's also a testament to you, like as a client, and the type, or not a client, but a coach, and the type of coach that you are. And I think the type of coach that we all are, in terms of like kind of the how much we just like, I think, like to love on our clients and like teach them things.
And talk coach people into becoming just better people, better
Yeah,
versions of
and
themselves.
expecting more of themselves.
Yeah, and because like a lot of times, people sign up with a bodybuilding coach or lifestyle just to get from point A to point B. Like, I want to do a show, I want to do this, and like there's yes, we're doing that, but we can only do that if we focus on the other things too.
Right.
But yeah, there's obviously coaches that are just macros and cardio or meal plan and cardio or whatever. But the thing I love about us as a collective is like all three of us coach with this in mind of like, we're building people, we're building better humans, and we care about the little
yeah.
things, the things that you can't see in a transformation post, that you don't see on the
Yes.
scale or the data tracker. It's biofeedback. It's what are the wins from your vacation, or what are the wins about like your self-worth and your self-love and your belief in yourself. Because those things, if those things can be better, you not only become a more successful competitor or a more successful athlete in general, but you then have better, you just like, you reach a higher level of yourself, and you reach a
You
higher level.
vibrate higher, right? Like there's just so many like ways to apply the, I call them like little mindset mountains that you climb, right? And then once you overcome them, like you look back and you're like, holy shit, I did that. And then that also lends to like you doing that more frequently. It's like that in itself becomes a habit.
Bigger and better.
Yeah.
You can only, if you never dig deep into yourself and do that inner work, build that self-trust that Jess was talking about, and the self-awareness that we all know is so powerful. Like, if you never do the work to build that, and you never give your coach feedback so they can help you do that, and you don't, you're not vulnerable with them, so we can help you do that, then you stay at a certain level. You stay at
And
that
some
max.
people, like I think the hardest part with me with that, and I think probably all of you can agree, is like having a client who's just not quite ready to do that. It's like no matter how many times you try to say the same thing, or like you try to meet them where they're at so that you can kind of like pull them up and like, hey, like look, we got this. Like sometimes they're just not ready to hear it, or and like it's just not the situation that like pulls them or pulls their head out of their ass basically, and is like, damn it, okay, you know what, I do need to change.
They're not ready to listen.
Yeah, and it's like one of my favorite quotes is like, like the discomfort of change, or like no one changes until the discomfort or like pain of not changing is more uncomfortable than the pain of change. It's like you have to be so fucking uncomfortable with your life that I mean, the most severe like example of that is obviously addiction. Is
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
damn, people really have to hit rock bottom before they go, shit, I need to get it together. Like, I need to go like get my life because I'm losing everything. I'm losing my friends, my family. Obviously, that's the extreme version. And like we're talking about fitness and health, which for some people, you know, is a matter of life and death. But you know, I think just kind of keeping that in perspective in itself too, like helps you
Yeah.
go, okay, yeah, I can make the change. I just have to like want to do that enough.
What
Yeah.
I've found really inspiring in making this like shift to refined strength, and then just like how we build ourselves as coaches, like how we hold ourselves to a higher standard as coaches and as athletes. Like you can go on our social medias and see that. But our what I've seen in my clients is, oh shit, I'm part of this team that really has this like standard set high. And they're really excited about moving forward with that intention, and
Mhm.
not like perfection or like the grind mentality or anything like that, but they just see other people who are now like their teammates, or they see like my clients, the other clients in the group chat or whatever it is, just leveling up, and they see that as inspiration and go, oh, I could do this too, but in this way for me. And it's like this kind of collaborative, like building up of one another
Mhm.
and leveling up the standard and excitement about it. And that's really cool when you
Instead
have,
of it being intimidating, right? It's like
yeah.
it used to be this intimidating thing like, "Oh man, I wish I could, you know, ask that much of myself, or I wish I could like achieve that level of like success or contentment with like who I am and what I'm doing and like saying that this is what I want out of myself." And it's like that used to be intimidating, but like you said, like and when everybody is doing that, but in a way that seems attainable and achievable, because like we're all just people all trying to like we're all just trying our best at the end of
Yeah.
the day. Like we're all just really trying our best. It makes it that much more, I think, like within arm's reach for everybody that we're working with.
Hmm.
Yeah, I see the same thing, Jess, in my own clients, and I've seen that especially just like through my prep. You know, me prepping for the first time that a lot of these people have been with me for. You know, I think a lot of, especially pros, I hear this from clients who have come to me from other coaches who are also competitors and pros, whereas like their coach kind of drops off a little bit when they're in prep and they're, you know, they just get less and less from them. That's one thing that I started my prep knowing that like I would never let that happen. I would sooner
Mhm.
drop out of my prep if that was happening
Yeah.
than continue and allow my clients to suffer. um, but you know, the opposite happened, which is like I feel like I became better as a coach because I was holding myself to this super high standard of never letting my people down, and then, you know, obviously also not letting myself down or my coach down, and putting all of my effort into all of these things, even though, yeah,
Mhm.
it's a lot, but like we can do a lot. We like, I've done a lot before and I've made it this far. And so why can't I just keep asking more of myself in an appropriate way?
Yeah, you
Um,
find you find your ceiling or your boundary of like, okay, this is probably as much on my plate that I can handle, right? I don't like I could ask myself for more, but then it's like certain things start to fall through the cracks.
yeah. And like the things that fall through the cracks, it's like they become fewer and farther between when I
Mhm.
only choose to put the things on my plate that really matter.
Right.
And so it's about time management and prioritizing and not saying yes to some things, not taking on every single client, um,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
making sure that like when I do need that extra space or time that I ask for it, you know, like I told my clients for next week that we're competing that like check-ins are optional next week. I'm not doing
Mhm.
check-ins Wednesday or Thursday. I'm only doing a Monday and Tuesday. And, I'm giving everyone a 2-week plan for those that are skipping. And like, they're all excited about that. They're not thinking that they're getting anything less from
Yeah.
people.
Mhm.
And so I think
I mean,
like,
that's like the same, I mean, like a longer time period, but like for me with my maternity leave, like I was really anxious about that for like a long time. And I cannot, like, I keep saying thank you guys like 1,000 times over because, like, obviously with my transition to refined strength as well, and us kind of communicating like what that would look like, when I do, and I say need my time because I hate to say that I need anything because I don't like asking people for help. It's like such a thing. But
like we need
Yeah.
help. We need
Yeah.
time.
yeah. And like
Especially
but like telling even my clients that, I do plan on taking some time off, like I was like scared to do that because I was like, what if they are like, okay, cool, well, then I'm done then. Like I don't really like I don't need you anymore, or like, cool, I'll find someone else to work with. But like everyone is so excited for me, which is
Yeah.
really, really nice to see. And I think it's ridiculous that I would like even kind of be overly excited or expect anything less than that. Be like, oh my gosh, you're pregnant, you need time off. Like, cool, bye.
What
Um,
What's cool though is I feel like they see us. They see us
yeah,
investing in them every day and every week and giving ourselves to them. But like I'm assuming the majority of like your clients have been following both of you for a while or at least on your journey or like seen you on social media and like DJ, I've talked to you about this before. I'm so fucking excited for you to like live life. This is not bodybuilding. Like this is fucking I'm growing a human and then we're going to help it survive. Like that's
yeah.
fucking cool. But
Mhm.
Rachel and I are like in the opposite of what you have been doing for the last 4 years, which is full on bodybuilding. And so, because your clients have seen how much you give into bodybuilding, but now have just wanted a family, and now this is that opportunity, of course they're going to be fucking excited because it's like this two-way relationship. And same with Rachel and I, yeah, like I don't think I had any clients, maybe like two, who were with me when I was prepping before. None,
Mhm.
right? I haven't prepped since 2020. And so now this is like a new experience for all of them. And they know how hard, Rachel, you and I have worked in our off season and dedicated like a big part of our life to that. And now it's like happening as well. And it's
Mhm.
like really cool that our clients can now see us doing these big life things that we've really worked hard to achieve because they also see how we give into them
Yeah.
and are excited
And I
about
think
their
it puts
goals
into
and their big things.
perspective too for them and like their own struggles through their own prep and like,
Yeah.
whether it's, not seeing, for me, I took a really long off season. So did you, Jess. And so like 2.5 years off, like I have to convince a lot of people to take even a year off,
I was
right?
just gonna say, like, that in itself, one, makes you relatable
Yeah.
because like I was on the opposite end of that and just like competed over and over and over again. But it shows like that it's necessary for a good amount of people, but it also is worth it because you guys have transformed so much in the time that you've taken off, because like you've been able to put on quality tissue, you've been able to live your life, you've been able to build things outside of competing and off the stage, and like that time is so valuable for so many other reasons. Like people really glorify just competing because like it's like this is like the spotlight, but it's like you don't get to reap those benefits until you put the time in out of the spotlight to do those things and also just build your life again outside of competing. Like the stage and competing, it's just a sport. Like it's not going to, I mean, for most of us, it doesn't pay our bills. Like, yes, we can build, but the people that have earned that to where competing does pay their bills, it's because they also do a lot of the work behind the scenes to like accumulate endorsements and support and sponsorships off the stage. Like Yeah, sorry. I'm like on a whole soapbox here because it's so important. It's so
No,
freaking
it is.
important.
It is. Like that's the thing is like it allows people to see and like we're talking about our clients like them to see that like that shit is worth it. The time you put in is worth it. And if you want to do something big and if you want to really just like hit it out of the park the next time you get on stage, whether it's the first time or the 10th time, like you have to put in the work, and that work is the time off. That work is the life gains in your off season.
Mm-hmm.
Cultivating healthy, strong relationships with people so that when you're in prep and things are harder and you maybe need some extra help or whatever,
Yeah.
people want to help you. People want to be there for you and see you win and see you succeed. Because I see a lot of times, people compete without really having a solid relationship in place, or like their relationship is just kind of or it's rocky, or the expectations weren't set about like how prep is going to go, how my body is going to change, and
Mm-hmm.
the relationship falls apart middle of prep.
Or even
People,
just with themselves. Like it doesn't even have to be like a relationship, like a boyfriend girlfriend or like a marriage or
Mhm.
friendships. It can literally be the relationship that people have with themselves that they think, oh, well, if I get stage lean and throw a tan in a bikini and some glam on, like I'm gonna love myself more or like be a
Yeah.
better person. It's like, dude, no, that literally will reveal the exact opposite if you're not careful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they hate bodybuilding.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's because bodybuilding ruined my relationship with food and with myself, and which I mean that's a whole other podcast, I think.
I love
Because
how we
like
started talking about like Thanksgiving and holidays.
I
Well,
was just thinking
I
that.
mean, it connects though. What you just said is like
It does.
your bodybuilding, yeah, it ruins a lot of people's relationship with food, but it's not bodybuilding that does that. It's the people, and it's
Yeah.
how you approach each phase. And so,
Hmm.
whatever phase you're in, while
And
the
who you
holiday,
have guiding you. Who you have guiding you and coaching you in your circle can also dictate that.
but like the phase that you're in during the holidays, as just like kind of a wrap around back to center here,
Full circle moment.
full circle moment is like the phase that you're in, you have to consider what that means and what your Thanksgiving, your Christmas, your New Year's, your Hanukkah, whatever it is, like all of those things, like you can choose what you want to do with that. And
Hmm.
only you have control over your thoughts. You don't have to worry about anybody else's thoughts, anybody else's judgments. If someone else's idea of quality time is seeing you eat a certain food and a certain amount of it, fuck them. You choose what you want to do based on what you want to feel like and how you want your life to go. And
Hmm.
that's the case for, if you're in prep, if you're in off season, if you started with a coach recently, or if you're waiting or whatever, it's just live your life, like design
Yeah,
your life
man.
how you want to design it.
Yeah. You have to choose to be happy regardless. Like you have to live with you. Like you're going to go home from that holiday weekend or that trip with your family or vacation or whatever it is, and you have to go home and be like, "Damn, I really didn't have a good time." And it had nothing to do with the food. It was just because I was miserable for whatever reason.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
So much of the time we build up food more in our heads than it
Oh
needs
my
to be.
gosh.
Like
Yeah.
we build up the how good it's going to taste grandma's, you know, stuffing or whatever, even though
Yeah.
we've had it a million times before. We build up what that vacation food at Disneyland is going to be like. And,
Oh my God, park food is also like so overrated. Like, yes, it's good, but like that ice cream cone's gonna taste the same at freaking Chick-fil-A as it is
Yeah.
in Disney.
Yeah. It's good, but like
it's, it's all relative and
Yeah,
perspective.
dude. Yeah, it is. But yeah, you have the power to decide like how you're gonna enjoy that moment, and
Yeah.
that's all that
And you have the
matters.
power to decide the meaning of each thing that you do and each like thing that you consume.
Hmm.
So you can either say like, oh, this food is gonna change my life and I have to have this food with this person, or you can say like, that food's gonna be good. I'm gonna have a little bit of it. And
Yeah.
then you know?
Yeah, I mean the same. I keep I hate to use addiction as an example because like for me it is relevant in my life because I do have family members that struggle with addiction and I have friends that have are sober. But like, you know, no one's yelling at an alcoholic to like have a drink because it's going to make that person happier to see them drinking. They
Yeah.
understand that that's a boundary they have to respect because it's a real problem for somebody. But like the same, like you can also just say, hey, this is a boundary for me. I don't need to have 3 4 plates of the same food and overeat because it makes you happy.
Yeah.
Right, like I can have a couple bites of cake and be satisfied and done. It doesn't mean that I didn't like the cake, it doesn't mean that I don't want to be here. It just means that that's all I needed. And you have whatever you want. Doesn't mean that you have to feel guilty for having a whole slice of cake if that's what you want to do. That's just you do you, boo boo. I'm gonna do me, and then we
Doesn't
can
need to be a
all.
big deal.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a whole thing.
And if you setting a boundary about something as simple as food with another person makes that person uncomfortable or unhappy or whatever, that's about them. It's
Yeah.
not about you. And so that's just even more reason for you to keep strong on that boundary and not worry about what they think, because that's their problem that
It
they are
really is.
something you're eating or not eating.
Yeah, that's their problem. Same thing, like it's same thing with money. It's like if I have a friend that wants to go and spend all their money, that doesn't mean I have to spend all my money and zero out my bank account.
Yeah.
The same thing applies.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna go broke because you want to go shopping. Like that's cool.
Is there
That
anything
was
else we didn't touch on?
Any last thoughts that we have about like navigating the holidays coming up?
I don't think so. I mean, we covered everything on my list. I'm a list person because of my attention span and how my brain works. But I feel like we talked about a lot of really important topics and like some nuggets that we didn't plan for, but I think were important. And then Rachel, thank God, brought it way back home because we were like way out here for a while. But I hope, this episode was as valuable as we intended.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it just brings it back to like presence and just
Mhm.
being with the people. I mean, if you're celebrating with people that you enjoy, like think about why you are there at whatever
Yeah.
social gathering you're at or whatever environment you're at. Like, why are you there? And maybe it's because you fucking made an obligation. Okay, make that obligation, be the best that you can be. It doesn't need to be like any big thing. If you can just relax and be present, it'll help you bring in that awareness and not overthink it, because it's really just when you break it down, it's fucking what, 2 3 meals out of the next 2 months. Like, really?
Yeah.
Fuck. Like,
Yeah. Like we
that's
said,
it.
it ends up just turning you can turn it into just another day. And I
Yeah.
think another cool thing now that I didn't really think about before, and like I'm literally just thinking as Jess is talking, is that doesn't mean I'm not paying attention, sorry. But is like you can also just like hiring a coach doesn't have to just be about a physical transformation. We've kind of talked about this a little bit, but like if you're like, you know what, the holidays are a real problem for me and I just don't know how to navigate this on my own and really kind of feel like I come out on the other side feeling successful, you can literally hire a coach for like let's say 6 months and say this is what I want to work on, and then that can be the end of the road for that journey. Or if that inspires you to set a new goal, then you can work on setting a next goal, but that could literally be your goal. It doesn't have to be about like specifically losing 20 pounds or whatever it is. It could literally just be, hey, I have a hard time navigating this time of my life or stressful situations. Obviously that means you should interview and find a coach that can help you with that specifically, because obviously some coaches don't necessarily want to take that on as a
That's a little
project or
different
whatever.
of a type of goal, especially if it's not like, I want to step on stage or I want to lose X amount of weight.
Hmm.
It's about like, I need more of a mindset coach.
Yeah,
And
and
it's
that's
like
fine.
sometimes we shy away from like saying that that's what we do. We're not mental health care providers, but we do work a lot on those mental mindset, all lifestyle behavior change, because
It's a
that's,
big part of what we do.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it's a huge part of just being able to be a responsive body to a more specific goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I
Plus, it
honestly,
also. Go ahead. Sorry,
oh,
Jess.
I had that conversation with a client today because
Did
she
you?
checked
Oh.
in. Yeah, she checked in and she was like, "I'm so sorry, my goals aren't like big and whatever." Because she was like, "I just want to learn how to navigate life after some very personal, like emotional stuff
Mm-hmm.
happened and moving into the holidays." And I was like, "Yo, just because you don't want to be a competitor and step on stage doesn't mean that your goals aren't valid. Like just
Yeah,
because you aren't like, I want to lose 20 pounds, your goals are still valid. Your goals are still to like listen to your body and like develop awareness around your training and like there's like multiple things and her goals are a little bit more fluid, but that doesn't make it less worthy."
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. Like, yeah,
honestly,
again, we talked about like that not being like very marketable because you can't really post that as a transformation, but I think that's just as important of a goal if it's important to you.
yeah, I agree. Going One thing I wanted to add, because just you were talking about like obligations and like time with family and stuff like that, and I think this is something like not as many people talk about, but like it's also okay to be by yourself and be okay with not allowing yourself to be obligated to as many things. I think a lot of people think that there are these big social obligations, like I have to hit every single dinner and I have to hit every Christmas party, every social gathering, and you really don't have to do that. You can spend your holiday, or you don't like you can spend your holiday alone. You can spend it with just your significant other instead
We
of having.
love a quiet holiday season. Keith and I literally for years had just gotten
It's
away with it because we don't live super close to family, but we totally don't mind.
That's Bob and I
When
now
I
that we
moved
live
to
in Texas.
Texas in 2021, I moved here with a significant other, and then we broke up, in the next year. And I spent, sorry, uh,
Rude.
spent the next few holidays, like the next year or so of holidays, by myself. Like I went to the movies alone on Thanksgiving,
That was
and
probably super therapeutic and cathartic and so chill.
I got nice and high, and I got myself dinner, and I
That's
just
so nice.
but then like me and Austin now are together, and we spent last Christmas, and we're doing this again this year. We spent it just at a cabin in the woods in Broken Bow, just
Mm.
of us and the dogs. And he has a big family. They're really into gatherings. They're only 5 hours away in Lubbock, but we spent Thanksgiving with them. And we're doing that again this year. My family's all the way in Seattle, so it's like a lot harder to get us over there. But it's just like I think we grow up with all of these expectations and we turn those into obligations. But you, again, going back to you being an adult, you can do whatever you want.
Well, it's a
And
generational thing too, I think, because that was pretty normal for a long time. It definitely, like in my parents' generation when I was growing up, that was super normal. And I think our generation is kind of just like, I'm just gonna kind of do what I want to do, you know.
yeah,
So
I agree. But I do see a lot of people still in our generation that kind of are tied down by that,
for sure.
hold themselves to those obligations. And this is just me reminding you that like you don't have to do that. You can also choose to not spend this one Thanksgiving holiday with this family, and you can choose to maybe like spend other quality time with that family at a later date when you have more time, or you're
Hmm.
not going to be in prep, or you just want to spend more time with them at another time.
Yeah,
Yeah. All
love
right.
that.
Well,
Boundaries.
boundaries, all the things. Thank you guys for listening. We will do more of these all team squad podcasts in the future. Hopefully, I feel like we could do one probably once a month at some point.
Yeah.
But after the baby D is born.
Oh my
So
gosh. Yeah. Maybe I think probably next time we do a podcast will be when she's not in my belly.
Oh
She'll
man.
just be She'll be out here
She'll be in
chilling.
the podcast, like
Yeah, she'll be in the podcast.
podcast.
I'm excited for that. I can't wait to
Real.
introduce her.
Me too. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for being on. Love y'all, and happy holidays coming
Love
up.
you guys. Happy holidays.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.